Hi everyone, Kelvin here from London. I review all types of stereo equipment, old and new. Today, I've got my hands on these JBL l82. If you're a hi-fi person, you're probably familiar with these or you've seen them being reviewed recently. And there's a bigger brother to this, which is the L100, which I think is a replica of an original JBL, certainly a visual replica, but I would say it's definitely improved, and obviously the drivers are all new. But these speakers have a lot to do with a lot of the hallmarks of vintage speakers visually, and actually quite a lot sound-wise, or half of it I would say sound-wise. So what am I talking about? Okay, I'm talking about vintageness about this. One is it's got a paper cone. Yeah. Now, I really like to see a paper cone myself. There's certain cone materials I personally really don't like, and I don't think they every cone material has a characteristic, but the paper cone, which this has, it just gets you get more texture, you get the sound of the bass string. You get a real, I mean, I don't want to call it warm because warm sounds like it's inaccurate, but you get a nice feel for the bass in the room, you know? So that's a characteristic, really. I was generally speaking of a paper cone, you know. I mean, this offset thing with the tweeter over there, you don't see that so much these days, but that's also a kind of vintage characteristic. I mean, I'll tell you, when I was a kid or when I was younger, I was so obsessed with speakers. What I used to do was I'd take the tweeter out, put a long wire on it, I'd turn this whole thing the other way up, I'd set the tweeter up with like a blue tack onto something up here, so I'd be there really, and I'd move it around from left to right and get it in the middle and get it to the side, and I'd do all these things and just do listening tests, you know, to see what difference that made. Well, there's not a whole lot in it, but there's something in it. Honestly, there is. And I mean, it's a long time ago, but I remember thinking, it seems to create a little bit more space when you did that. That's how I remember it anyway. But it's no big deal. What else? The sort of proportions are kind of vintagey, yeah? I mean, a lot of speakers nowadays are tall or small or, you know, floor standers. So these are sort of vintage shape to look at. And they come with these tilted stands. So it doesn't make too massive of an impact in your living room. Yeah. You know, if these were higher and square, I think you know, you get more pushback from other members of the household about what they look like, because they can look, well, they do look great. My ones have got these black grills, but of course they come with those bright orange grills, which are really great looking, really great looking. I mean, the guys at Audio Gold, which is a local shop to me, have lent me these speakers for a week or so, which is just fantastic, you know. And they didn't ask anything; they just say, "Hey, try them out." So this is absolutely great. What else? We've got this. There's a little thing here, Treble Boost. You know, you can raise the treble higher or lower. I found it's really definitely better on flat. If I put it up to the max, raise the treble, I found I was losing sort of solidity in the mid-range. The mid-range started to sort of get less focused, you know. So personally, for me that's a bit of fun. But I mean, you might need it if, say, you were in a very echoey room, you know, very bright room. You'd want to turn that treble down. And if you're in a massively heavy room, you might want to turn that treble up. But anyway, I kept that on flat. So 150 watts you can put into them. They want this power. I'll talk about amplifier matching and stuff like that later on, because it's quite crucial, because there's certain aspects of these speakers, which is essentially nice low bass. You want an amp that's dishing that out, because that's really a great thing. With the paper cone in, it's quite rare to have that nice feeling of in the room bass. Yeah, you know, which certain cones won't really give you that amount of texture in the bass. So, you know, I'm really, you know, when I see that paper cone, personally, I'm thinking, oh, good, you know, because I know you're going to get the texture and the note of the string. You're really going to hear the string. Okay, we'll do the sound. Let's go deep into the sound. Yeah, it's big, it's detailed, it's refined. You know, it's very refined. JBL are sort of associated, particularly in the past, as being a rock speaker, which meant it was very dynamic, and probably the tweeter was a bit brash. Yeah, this tweeter is not brash at all. Not brash at all. I wouldn't sort of say this is a rock speaker only, but it does have the dynamism in it. I mean, I don't even like that brashness, to be frank with you. But what I'm saying is, I personally wouldn't say it's like just for rock. I wouldn't say that at all, because it's a really refined, well-engineered bit of kit. You can listen to it all day, you know, so you're never going to tire. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened when I was listening to these. I had a big amp on, 100 watt, vintage Akai from 1988. Very low bass and powerful. I found that I kept turning it down because it was getting late. And even though I was turning it down, I was still getting the whole picture of the music, you know? Often you start losing quite a lot. And I turned it down. I thought, oh, well, I'll turn it down a bit more, you know? I'll turn it down a bit more. And I was still getting all the detail. It's like still feeling kind of full and rich at low level, which is actually super unusual, you know. Okay, well, let's go back to our sound. Let's do the mid and the top, yeah? And this is still a two-way speaker. You can't escape that. All that, what I mean there is, the older brother of this, the L100, has a 4-inch mid-range. What that will do is just place instruments in an exact place. This is giving you all the detail in the mid-range. I mean, it's absolutely detailed. Yeah, I'm definitely saying that. But if there was one thing it doesn't have, it probably is focus. But it's so enjoyable that you know, you're not brought to think about it. You know. So the mid and the top is detailed. It's sharp. It's refined. Yeah, it's good. You know, it's good. It's a class act, right? These are expensive things too. Let's you know, it's what you'd expect basically. The great bit about these is when we get into the bass and we're getting this paper cone pushing out. See, paper cones, they're light. They'll get the finer details of the bass guitar and what's going on down low. And, you know, it's such a joy when you're listening to some track and the bass guitar just comes in with a boom, and you feel that and know it, you know, just boom, right there in the room. It's a joy, you know, it's such a joy to feel and follow bass. And even though I've got tons of speakers here, that doesn't happen that often, not in the way this does it. So what I'm really saying, I really want to say is, I think the bass is what is great about these, and the mid and the top are just fine. I mean, these have these angled stands, which kind of helps to spread things out. It probably doesn't help focus sound, but it gives it a nice spread out sound, and I know it's a nice room filling sound. thing I should have mentioned actually, these tweeters, it's a mirror image, yeah, they're not the same. My understanding is the tweeters would be in the middle of the room, like this setup here. And I would think you'll find if you change those tweeters around, if you put them on the outside, you might lose focus in the sound staging. So the history of this setup is manufacturers would say put the tweeters in the middle. Maybe you put them on the outside if you like. It ain't going to make a whole load of difference. But I think it's about sound staging. You want these to kind of cross more rather than be further out. Does that make any sense? Okay, let me talk about a few songs, and that'll give you the picture also of what these sounded like. I listened to this song, Cry Me a River, Michael Bublé, which is not probably the version, it's a different, it's a big band, basically, you know, and it's very nicely recorded. These were just, I thought, to be honest, these were like made for that big band sound, because they got the scale, you know, they got the scale and, you know, all the horns and the fine detailing and just the sort of largesse of it all, and the low bass, you know, making it sort of big, grand, you know. So when I was listening, I thought like that was probably it's like they're made for that sound. What else? I listened to Clever Trevor here in Drury. You know, really good. I'm following the bass more than I would on all my other speakers. Take It Easy by the Eagles. Again, great toe tapping bass line, you know. You really get hold of that bass line. I would say, what have I got here really? I put the snare may be a little bit quiet or just a little bit less than normal, but it's sharp, you know, it's fine. And the vocals are really nice, you know. And what did I put here? I put the song, the whole thing sounds vintage to me. It's got that enveloping vintageness, you know. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are a little bit of vintage sound and part of the modern sound. I mean, the bass, which is great, and it's in the room and it's pumping and da da da. I'd give it 10 out of 10 for presence, yeah, like being there. I'd give it 8 out of 10 for accuracy, which isn't a bad score. But I'd say there is, you know, there's something not quite perfect about all the bass notes. But, you know, that's kind of churlish because the bass is so enjoyable. But I'm just trying to say the bigger brother of this would probably articulate the bass a little bit better, you know. Let's just talk about the amplifiers, because this is so crucial. And it's like, you know, as long as I mess around with this hi-fi business, and I'm messing around all the time, there's always things that surprise me. Or, yeah, there's just things that surprise me. And I think I know what's going on. And there are always things that go, oh, God, that's a great combination. On that one didn't work as good. So what I want to say about these is, if you put on a weaker amplifier, well, 40, 50 watts, say, most of the 40, 50 watts amps I've got, it's not that they are underpowered, but they weren't giving me the bass grunt, which was such a joy. And I got that bass grunt off of the 100 watt vintage Akai. What else did I get it off? I also got it off another really old big Sansui. I haven't got a lot of modern amps here, to be honest with you, but they need that power, because unless you're getting that good bass stuff, to me, you're not exploiting what these speakers can do. Yeah, so I say you've got to have the power. You've got to have something that's not bass light. You know, most valve amps, I guess, may not be good. It'd be fine, but I love that low bass. You know, I just, it's so nice to hear. and it's so rare that you get it. And I was so in love with it that I may got a bit overexcited about it, but I was just thinking that's what I'm loving here. You know, is this thrumming in the room, tuneful bass that's you know, you don't often hear it, to be honest with you. I know. And yeah, they might have a great hi-fi kit and you get it, but I don't often hear it. Honestly, I don't. And I've got some huge speakers, but they don't give me the tone. They don't give me the string, the notes, and the texture, I suppose you'd say. Is that it? I think that's it. So, what would I say? Sum it up. Get yourself a big amp if you're going to have these speakers. It's a joy. You probably won't want another pair of speakers, be thinking about it for 10 years, you know, if you get the right amp. Big sound, refined, listen all day, maybe some little issues in the middle, I mean little, but overall, very enjoyable, just really enjoyable, you know. I don't like to spend a ton of money. I'm just like that. But it did cross my mind buying these. It did cross my mind. But it also crossed my mind. I'd really like to hear the bigger ones because, you know, that I would imagine would be really good. But I haven't heard them. Okay, that's it. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye for now.